What drives you? What inspires you? Let's ignite your why. Welcome back to another episode of Ignite Your Why podcast. I'm your host, Austin T. Gullett, and we're here to have genuine conversations with authentic people to help amplify their voice and figure out what ignites their why. Today, we have the honor to sit down and catch up with Joshua Stovall. Some of you may know him as Pastor Peace. So the last time we talked to Josh, it was back in season 2, episode 8, July actually of 2021. So if you have not listened to his episode, make sure you go back, check it out. I will have the link in the description below. So with that being said, Josh, how are you doing today, man?
I'm nervous.
There's no need to be nervous. No need to be
No, I'm
nervous.
not nervous. I'm good. This is great. I've been wanting to jump back on here with you anyway, like I told you. So
It's crazy because there's so many people who are like, I want to get back on because so much has changed. And I'm just like, I've had
dude,
to
that's
figure out a way to kind of incorporate that. And I think moving forward, I'm going to try to find a way to maybe drop like a where are they now episode every season.
right,
I don't know.
right.
It's going to be interesting.
You got a lot of people to catch up with though.
I mean, 45 different guests. So it can
I
be
remember seeing that
endless.
collage of everybody. I was like, man, this dude is talking to everybody. Man.
The Black History one. Yep.
Yeah. That was crazy. And that was just all the black people.
For real. It was just like it's been a ton of guests, and I think I'm just super blessed. What is crazy to me though is majority of my guests have been from my pool of network, right? So like it hasn't been like, oh, like I've had to really go far to kind of find these guests.
Right.
But like I want to get to that point where I want to meet new people that I don't necessarily like fully know. But it would be that's the growth. But enough about me, enough about this. So the last time we talked was July 2021. So what the hell has been going on, man?
Exactly that. Man, life is there's been a lot of growing going on since July of 21. Now we're in April of 23, which is nuts. We're almost halfway through the year, and it's like it's crazy. It's super crazy. Man, I'm trying to think, what was I doing? So much has happened. It's like I don't know exactly what was going on July of that year.
I can give you some updates. So the last time we
Yeah.
talked, you were working as a special ed teacher in Milford. We were kind
I
of
was at Milford then.
yeah. So you're at Milford, and we were kind of in the midst of COVID kind of ending. You got to think because March 2020 is when shit really hit the fan, and then kind of just we were still not fully back to normal. I believe like we were still both working at Apple together in Kenwood. So things have just really kind of changed so much. And at that time, you were also working on like a custom apparel item line. So like just thinking back to like that conversation, how have things changed? How have you been? And what are you doing now, man?
So I still work special needs. I was working in Milford. So I think I moved to Columbus in July of 2021. No, it was 2020. I was still living in Columbus. So I think I moved to Columbus in August, either July or August of 2020, because I took over my mother's house. So I was driving from Columbus 4 or 5 days a week to be at work in Milford when I was doing that. Yeah, and I had to be at work at 6:45.
Oh hell no! You lost me there. Nope,
I lost you right
nope.
there, already gone. Yeah, and I think I was still at Apple at that time, and then a year later, shoot, what's crazy? So this story, I was working at Milford, and I met somebody in Columbus who was trying to get me on at a school in Columbus, and so I was like, "Yo," and I was trying to talk, and I was talking to Apple about me getting on in the Apple store. I was like, "This driving is now starting to get on my nerves. Like, I love my people in Cincinnati, but I now rest my head in Columbus. I'm still trying to maneuver through mourning the loss of my mother, still trying to get through, which I didn't know that I was in depression slight, but I was in depression at that time because, dealing with all the things that come with loss. Like, I don't know if I ever shared it on the show, where I'm the only child. I don't have any siblings other than my mother and father. So it's really just me. I'm not married. I have no kids. So me thinking about my mother, who is now not here physically anymore, I was starting to have this self thing that I was trying to deal with. I never gave my mother opportunity to be a grandmother or to be a mother of a married son, like to give her all of those typical things that we want to give somebody. Uh, so dealing with that. So then I was in Columbus the week that we was going back to school in Milford. I had put in for the Polaris location for Apple, and then I also was trying to get a job at a school in Columbus. That Monday or Tuesday, I got fired from Milford.
Oof.
Yeah, I got fired from Milford. The next day, no, or I think that day, Apple called me that I got fired from Milford and said I got on at the Polaris store. The next day after that, or 2 days later, I got hired on at Worthington in Columbus. So,
See, God works in mysterious ways, man.
dude, let
It's
me tell
just
you,
like when
and I
one
didn't
door,
even want to.
yeah,
Yeah,
when
I
one
didn't even.
door closes, another one opens, and I think
And
that's the
they
thing
slammed that
is,
door.
but
Milford slammed that door.
they do say like the best things happen to us unexpectedly, right?
Most definitely.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind
most
of
definitely.
like you're going through this process of like grieving your mom and just going, I don't know what that's like. I can't
Yeah, it's
relate to you
crazy.
in that sense. But
Right.
just like going through that process, you go through those 7 stages of grief,
Right.
probably. Like you get angry, you get in
Yep.
denial, and just all of
Yep.
those. I don't know them off the top of my head. But
I don't either, but I know I went through all of
yeah, so it's kind of
them.
just like you're really trying to figure out like who you are again, right?
Right.
I
Oh my
think
goodness.
back to our conversation, and the one thing you kind of mentioned was you always grew up and you kind of had like an insecurity, right? You
Most
talked
definitely.
about your insecurity of your height, insecurity of like your appearance, and just different
Right.
things of that nature. But then it kind of stood out to me because I knew like your mom played a huge influence on you and had a big role in your life. And
Most
you
definitely.
mentioned a story. I'm not going to go fully in depth because people can just go back and listen to it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll go back and look. I'll go back and look.
but you mentioned the one thing that like kind of made everything validate for you, and that was
Mm.
when your mom would text you like, "Good
Oh
morning,
yeah,
my handsome
yeah,
son."
yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Most definitely. So that insecurity has been still prevalent, but recently I've been working on it, and a lot of stuff as far as insecurity, because I always feel like, at least with me, when I talk to other people, you attack the insecurity a different way when you're hurt.
Hmm.
And if you don't want to be hurt anymore, it's kind of like, I don't want to be in this place anymore. So there has to be a time, there has to be a point where either I'm just going to sink and drown in this and this is going to be my life, or I'm just going to take off and swim and get to where I need to be. And so recently, going through dealing with somebody who I've given myself to and them not accepting me, I had to go down my resume of who I was to myself and almost to the person where I know I'm insecure in these areas, but it's like, you know what? I do this, I do that, I do this, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. And it was like, wait a minute, I'm not a bad person.
Hmm.
I make mistakes. I'm not perfect, but if you line me up, if you look at my stuff on paper, I'm not a bad dude. There's a reason why I'm loved by so many people. There's a reason why I love so many people. There's a reason why I'm so connected. It's not because I'm an a-hole, it's because I'm genuinely a good person. And then I had to realize, just because you don't see that doesn't mean that's not what I am. I had to see it for myself. And so I had to start going back to what my mother used to tell me. She was not a woman of a whole lot of words,
Hmm.
but the things that she did say, it was like, oh, mom, yeah, it hit me like that. But it was it was truth. Like, it would be things that would frustrate me, and she'll just say something, and it would be like, oh. dang, all right. Like she would just find the simplest way. So dealing with that insecurity of the height and the looks or whatever, that helped. That is helping. I'm not gonna say it helped because I'm not there, but it is helping with
Hmm.
uh what it is for the business, what it is for all the different positions, all the different things that I'm doing. So it's like it's the insecurity thing is crazy. And I was actually thinking about it today because I've come such a long way. It's absolutely crazy. Like it's,
Okay.
but I had to
Yeah.
fall real hard. There were some things that I thought I got rid of, but I didn't get rid of it. It was just I wasn't in a
Buried.
situation.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
you
was buried. It
buried it.
wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a situation that dug it out.
Hmm.
And I went through something a couple of months ago, and my sister Shada, I've mentioned to you before. We was at the bar. We wasn't getting drunk. We was just talking, had a drink, had some food, and I told her about this one time. I like that insecurity came out. Anything that looked like a form of rejection from somebody who I love or that I care about, it would make me feel a certain type of way, and it just I had a situation where I just my insecurity allowed her insecurity to blow up, and it got ugly. Like it got super ugly. We said some stuff we wasn't supposed to say, or that's how we really felt. And I got to the point where me and her was having a talk, and I was like, "Man, I don't like this part about myself, and I don't like being angry and blah blah blah." And she was like, "The anger is not the issue. The root of the anger is the issue." And that's when a tear just formed up in my eye, and I was like, it goes back to the father issues of
Hmm.
the rejection of my father. So here it is, I'm dealing with the rejection of my father, but yet trying to hold on to the acceptance of my mother. And it's like all of that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
All of
crazy
that.
because when you're saying all of this, I'm just thinking of like things like my therapist would always say to me, right?
Yeah.
We can't control the uncontrollable, right? So
Hmm.
like when we think of like insecurities and we think of our appearance and what people are going to think of us, it's not
Right.
that we can't like we cannot control what other people think,
That's
right?
true.
The only thing we can control is how we feel and how we react to what other people think.
Right. 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 Right.
So
Right.
you could walk into a room and someone could be talking about you, but they could be saying something good, they could be saying something bad, right?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
it kind of comes down to kind of a power of agreement, right?
Mm.
We go through all of these different experiences, these traumas and these life lessons, and they really teach us so many things. But the one
Right.
thing
Right.
it does is it really trains your brain to think a certain way, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they, like you said, like your anger was rooted from your dad, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
because it's a childhood experience that you never really got to go through, something that you got to experience and really dive in and think, why am I this way?
Right.
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 But it's
Right.
also the thing where it's like, it's weird because like you have the power to agree with that feeling, right?
Most definitely.
So
Yeah.
when it
Most
says the
definitely.
power of agreement, it's learning how to understand and recognize what is going on in that moment,
Right.
but having the power to be like, okay, I can
Right. Right.
either agree with this feeling
Hmm.
and be pissed off at the world, or I can
Right.
acknowledge it and change my train of thought.
And I'm glad you said that. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, when somebody's being talked to and they start adjusting themselves, that means it's getting real. That means the conversation's getting real. Somebody hitting on something and it's happening. But I was thinking about just recently, I've been going through seeing the difference of myself and those around me. And seeing that we're in springtime, I'm one of those spiritual people where I know things that happen in the earth around me, a lot of those things align to what's going on spiritually. We always hear spring cleaning.
Hmm.
You can't just, spring clean my house. It may smell like pine sol and everything's clean and all that. But mentally, physically, and spiritually, I should be doing the same thing. So I've been realizing there's a couple of people that's close to me that I'm either going to have to move them into a different place or remove them
Hmm.
completely. And one thing I've noticed, man, a lot of people they want to build their credit, they want to build their physical, they want to build everything else. But when it really comes time to it, and even when it comes to mental health, they only want to deal with a couple of things. But to really make you a better person, you got to deal with all of them, right? And there's a lot of people they don't see the accountability level that they should have with themselves and with us. And a lot of times, if you have the wrong person around you, if they're not holding their accountability to the level that they need to or at all, it will mess you up. You
Mm-hmm.
won't have the fire to be ignited. You know what I mean? So that's part of that insecurity thing where it's like, do I have you around because it's helping make up what I don't want to deal with? Or do I have you around because I want to help you in a place that you don't want to help yourself? And so that insecurity is helping me dealing with that insecurity is helping me put people in the right place. And
Hey.
also me looking in the mirror and be like, dude, you
Mm-hmm.
jacked up. You got this stuff. Like when I went through that, she told me about me and my sis, we talked. The fact that she said what she said as far as the anger is not the problem, the root of the anger. And internally, I knew what it was. It was rejection. And I thought, where did it come from? I went back the next, no, I think I went back that night and drove from Columbus to Cincinnati and apologized to this woman and told her where it came from. Not saying this was excuses of why I acted the way I acted and not focusing on what she invested into what made it because it's a two-way thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't. That wasn't the focus. That wasn't the time to do that. So I went and told her where it came from, what the problem is, what I'm doing for me, not for us, not for you. I have to do this for myself. And so that's what that comes to. And if we don't do that, man, like I don't know, man. It just kind of bothers me to have people around or talk to people who only want to deal with what they're comfortable with doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I
You gotta
understand it,
be
but
gotta be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And they always
right,
say that it's hard to deal with your emotions, especially as a man. I feel like it's because we're
yeah,
taught to be strong and tough and
right, right,
emotionless in a sense because if you show signs of if you show your emotions, it's a sign of weakness. It's this
right.
whole stigma and just this
But guess who else
perception
is
that
taught
people
that
have.
too? Men are taught that, and women are taught that men should be like that sometimes too. Like depending on how they grow up, of course. But a
Hmm.
lot of times, both of us are taught this is how a man is supposed to be: emotionless, provide, and whatever else comes with that. But as far as dealing with emotions, we're not really taught in all communities how to really be taught how to deal with our emotions.
Emotions are emotions are scary, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
But my therapist always tells me like they might be scary, but they're our friends, right?
Mm.
It's okay to feel. It's okay to
Oh yeah,
feel how you're feeling. And I
right.
think the one thing like you were talking and it's easy to know that you can grow out of relationships. I feel
Hmm.
like people are in your life for a reason, whether that's a season or a lifetime, that
Right,
they have their purpose, right?
most definitely.
And you need to surround yourself by people who are going to push you to be better. And if they're not
Hmm.
pushing you to be better and it's very stagnant, like there's no purpose for you being here, bro. Like none
I'm
at all,
sorry.
right? If you're
Yeah,
not going to help me get to where I want to be and I can help you get to where you want to be, it's not going to work, right?
yeah,
And it's hard because like you have those friendships that like are years of long years of like work, but it also is like this is not helping me anymore,
right. I
right?
call them long acquaintances.
Sounds selfish, like,
Right.
right?
No, it's
But like
not. I mean,
it's
it's
okay
not
to be
selfish.
selfish. It's okay to be
Yeah, yeah,
selfish though. It's okay to put
yeah.
yourself first. And I feel like some people will be hurt by that, but in
Right.
all reality, like I said, we can only control what we can control. I can't control
My
how you
brother says
feel.
that all the time. Yep.
I can't
I
control how
call
you're
him my
gonna
brother. Yeah.
react. Like, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right,
So those
right.
are the things is like we can say things and people will be upset by some things we say, but we also need to realize like I cannot control how you feel. Like this is I'm speaking my
That's it.
truth. And that's the
And
thing.
what's crazy about that is one thing that I've learned about working with uh, kids with special needs. I've learned that my nonverbal students who cannot complete a sentence, who cannot answer. I could ask one of my students, "How do you feel?" Yes. You doing okay? Yes. Like that's his answer for everything. But yet his communication with his emotions, sad to say, are a lot better than some of the adults that I know that are not special needs.
Mhm.
And it taught me a lot about how I communicate and how other people communicate. It's like it's such a huge lesson. Like this kid or these people cannot communicate the way that other people do, but yet they still have a way of communicating. So the one thing I've learned is I have to communicate with you the best way that I know how and the best way that I feel like you're going to be able to understand. I
Hmm.
can't communicate with you the way that I grew up and the way my community talks, and that's not going to work everywhere. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to code switch. I'm going to be myself and I'm going to communicate the best way I need to do for you to understand. And I expect you and want you to have the respect to listen to what I'm saying. And don't wait till I get done talking just so you can respond, but actually listen to what I'm saying because this is a communication thing. Like, this is something that's serious. And when it comes to doing your own business, you can't always have your emotions in your own business, right? Like, it's not always going to work. It's not always going to go the way you want it to. And how you communicate in business should be just as good as you communicate in your personal life. That's how I feel. I don't know. That's how I
Hey,
feel.
communication is key, and I think that's like one of the most vital skills you can have is just learning how to communicate, whether that's verbally, emotionally, whatever it may be. Like, there's so many
Right.
different ways to communicate. Um,
Right.
and there's one thing I kind of want to ask you because, like, we kind of touched on it a little bit. Is just we mentioned mental health.
Right.
You,
Right.
if you know me, you know I'm a
I know
huge
you
like
want it.
mental health advocate, right?
Right.
So it's been 2 years. You've been dealing with a lot, but how have
Mhm.
you been taking care of yourself mentally?
I have been learning to be accepting to the reality and not what I've been ignoring. And I think that helps with me because I know it helps with me because if I don't address what's there mentally, it's going to sit there and take space that it doesn't need to take. And if I don't address it and let it sit there, it's going to get spoiled and it's rot. It's going to get rot. And then whatever needs to come around is going to touch that and spoil that too. So if I
Hmm.
don't deal with it and move it to where it needs to be or deal with how I need to deal with it, even if I don't address it, it's still messing some stuff up behind
Oh,
the scenes.
for sure, for sure.
So I've seen where I don't like where I've been mentally, and I've seen where I love where I am. And so I just been real with myself and just saying like, all right, you got to work on that, like, and being honest. Like that's how I can't do it any other way. Like I'll listen to people whether it hurts. I'm like, ooh, they right. Ooh, this person
Hmm.
is right. Take it, bro. Be a man. You 37 now. Be a man. And so the past couple of years, taking the pain of not having my mother around to adjust, taking that pain and using that energy to be like, all right, so if your mother was here, how would she respond to this right here? She would tell you this and this and that based on the history of what she
Hmm.
said before. Then, I'm a spiritual person. What is God saying about my character? Okay. What are my friends saying about me? Let me stop using my insecurity to block the good things and the bad things about me that my people that are close to me that love me and what they're saying. What helps my mental is sharing what's going on with people that I can trust. And what I'm blessed to have is something that a lot of people don't have. I have a countless amount of friends and family that I can trust wholeheartedly. Like they're not going to tell me to do something or be something, say something that's not beneficial for me. They're not going to
Hmm.
say, they're not going to give me any advice or lead me in a way that's going to be harmful for me or have a slight, like, I'm going to tell you this, but I really want it to be beneficial for me. That's not my friends and family. They're going to tell me the real, whether I want to have it or not. You know what I'm
Keep it
saying? So
real. And that's
they're
the
going
way
to
it
keep
should
it
be.
real.
That's the way
Right.
it should be.
That's how it is. But if you notice, I've noticed in business, friendships, family, relationships with a woman, a lot of people don't have people that they can trust. They don't have a lot of
Hmm.
people that will hold them accountable. And that part mentally I've learned like I gotta let some of these people go because it's not that I think I'm right about everything. It's just morally certain things are not right. And if you're not seeing it, I gotta move that. And there's certain things about me, like, bro, you gotta change it. Like Joshua, you gotta
I
change
feel
it. So
it. You just
yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
you have to put yourself first sometimes. And I
Yeah.
think what really stood out to me the most is like I can relate to you so much in that sense
Most definitely.
where
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm the kind of person that is going to let shit, just bottle up, right? I'm not the type of
Yeah.
person who loves to talk about what's going on or what I'm dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've
Mm-hmm.
learned is just being transparent with people,
Mm-hmm.
right? I could go into work
Mm-hmm.
and I could tell my boss, I'm be like, yo, I'm not having a great day right now mentally. I'm
Mm-hmm.
exhausted. So, like, if I'm not giving what I gave yesterday, just know that, like, this is my best today, right?
Right. Right.
Because
Right. Right.
my best today is not going to be the same tomorrow. It's not going to be the same as
Right.
yesterday. So,
Right. Right.
it's
Right.
kind of it's hard for me because
Mm-hmm.
I think like you said, I do have a good friend group. I know I have people I can
That's
trust
dope.
and people I can count on, right?
Right.
But I
Right.
think what's scary for me is I get so in my head. It's kind of like an
Mm-hmm.
insecurity for me is like
Mm-hmm.
I am a people pleaser, right?
Mm-hmm. Me
So
too.
I want to make sure everyone's happy. I don't want you to be
Right. Right.
upset with me. I don't want you to judge me or look at me
Right. Right.
differently. So when things happen, it's like, do I want to talk about this? Do I want to address it?
Right.
But then I get to a point where it's like I'm at my breaking point. I
Mm.
can't continue to do this. I just want to break down in tears to a point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So for
Finding that
me,
balance is hard sometimes, man. It's like,
for
yeah.
sure. And what I've been wanting to start to do is just journal. It's weird
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like I can easily like
Mm-hmm.
journal and write how I'm feeling because that's how I express myself. I am
Right.
terrible with words. I cannot like not I shouldn't say I'm terrible with words. I'm
About to
terrible
say, are
with
you really?
verbally expressing my feelings.
Really?
Right? But if I
Really?
write it down, that's why when people are like, let's talk about it, and they want to freaking call me, I'm like, please don't. Like it's easier for me, like I'm being completely
I'm on
honest.
do
Like
not disturb. I didn't even know you called.
but like for real. And the thing is like it's so easy for me to express myself in text. Like if
Mm,
I can write how I'm feeling, I just can't verbalize how I'm feeling most of the time
right, right.
because it's weird.
That's crazy.
So
Because some people, has anybody ever taken your text messages the wrong way? Even when you verbalize it, when you have a time to sit down and put it the way that you feel like it needs to be fed, do you feel like people take that text the wrong way?
it just depends on the person.
I knew you was about to say that. I knew
Cuz
you was about
like
to say that.
the thing is like the people that I like will open up to understand me. They know me. They know
Right.
when I'm sarcastic. They can hear me texting them, if that makes
But
sense.
that's how you know if somebody really knows who you are. Because
Mhm.
if I'm sending you a text message or if I'm talking to you a certain type of way, especially if you say you love me, if you say you love me, if you say you care about me, when I'm talking to you, you should know where this is coming from. And if you don't know, if you take this the wrong way, it's two things. Either you don't really know me the way that you should know me or the way that we thought we
Mhm.
were, or you're responding to me based on something that has nothing to do with it. There's no way that you know me, love me, care about me, and I say something the right way that I always say it, and you take it the wrong way. It's like, okay, so
It's something deeper. It definitely is.
yeah. But
It's
people are not at the point where they want to acknowledge the fact that they're wrong. I want
oh,
people
no
to
one does.
people, please do me a favor before you leave this earth. Please start being accountable of yourself and acknowledging when you are wrong. That's where you can move forward in life a whole lot faster is when you realize that you're wrong. Now, I don't know what that looks like for you. I know with me, I've learned to be like, all right, I'm wrong. Let me say this,
Mhm.
or, because my mom was real big. I told my mom once, I don't know if I said this on the last time podcast. I know I told a couple of people this. At one point, there was a time where I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I love you. She was like, if you love me, you would do better. It's like, oh,
Oof. That's tough. That's tough love.
okay. Now, putting this out there because it may be like, oh, what kind of son are you? What did you do? Like, but let's be real. We all ain't perfect. Me and my mom, we are very similar and different at the same time. But there were some points where I wasn't grown where I need to be. I wasn't mature where I need to be with me and my mother's relationship. Before my mom passed, I am happy to say this, that she started to see that I matured. She told somebody, they ended up telling me, your mom saw the change. She saw that you were different, that you matured in these areas. But I learned from my mother, why would my mother tell me that? Like she could have just been quiet or she could have said it a different way, but it had to come from my experience, her experience with me as her son. It also came from the fact I love you and I'm going to tell you the truth. So I took that and was like, if somebody really loves me, they're not just going to say it. Their actions when I'm around and when I'm not around is going to show if they love me or not. And so if I'm communicating with you and you don't understand what I'm saying to you, and I'm saying it the best way and I'm saying it how I usually say it, you take it the wrong way, do you love me or are you slight? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That goes a whole totally different way. I don't know if I'm taking this off subject. I'm sorry.
No,
My
you're good.
apologies, y'all.
No, I think it's just crazy because I feel my friends understand me so well that it's like they know when I'm not telling everything. They're like, "There's more.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah,
more
yeah.
to this. Come on."
Oh yeah.
They have to
Oh
like
yeah.
pull it out of me. And there's also a time where it's like I can be very like surface level and I don't want to go too deep. I can only go deep with certain people. And I think there's like
Right.
three people. I'm not gonna name them because I don't want people to get upset. So
Nah. Who are
no,
they?
no, I'm
I'm
not, I'm
not
not,
playing.
no, 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 no. But I
Just
think it's
messing with
funny how you said like having that accountability of admitting when you're wrong.
you.
I
Yeah.
think it takes a lot as a person to be like, hey, I fucked up. I
Yeah.
understand. But I'm telling you, I only argue with people when I know I'm right. I will not argue with you if I know I'm wrong.
I
Like
feel you on that.
that's the thing is people are like they want to argue with something. I will do my research before I
Mm,
argue. I
that's
will not
hilarious.
if I know I'm right, I will argue. If I'm
I feel you.
questionable about how I'm feeling, I will not argue with you because I don't want to
Mm,
look stupid.
I feel you. Most of the time when I argue, it's usually um, in a relationship. It's usually when I'm with a woman. And I purpose it hasn't always been like this. A few exes might jump on and tell you in the DMs today, don't listen to him. But uh, after I learned my mistakes of how I communicated with arguments, then I start to learn I need to calm down. So one thing, if you're going to argue with me, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you in a low volume and just very monotone voice. And I want you to see where you get hyped, right? And so I want you to know, are you being excited or defensive? Like which one is it? Because I'm right here. So are you getting loud because you excited because this is how you express yourself? Or are you getting loud or whatever because you're being defensive? So whenever I argue, I always start off right here, and I'm just gonna keep it right now. If I get here, that means you done said some BS. That means you really done took it there. Like you're not listening. I'm saying it totally different ways. Like I've learned how to be in those communities because when you deal with so many difficult people,
Hmm.
you know you're always going to deal with difficult people. No matter how you try to avoid them, unless you don't deal with people at all, you're going to come across some difficult people with communication because people just don't know how to communicate. Like you said, you do better at writing out what you need to say, expressing your emotions. People are let's give him a Starbucks card and let him know that we appreciate the fact that he is man enough to say, this is the best way for me to communicate my emotions.
Hmm.
Sad to say, there are a lot of people who still do not know, who are grown as heck, who still don't know how to communicate their emotions, who still are not taking the time to sit back and say, this is not working. I need to find a way to communicate. There has to be a way.
Totally feel you. I think it just takes time to understand like how it is that you need to express your feelings and what works for you,
I don't even
right?
think it takes time anymore. I think
It
it
does.
takes
It
the
took me. I always, but I've always known. That's the thing. I've always known I've been good at writing, right?
I'm gonna tell you why
When
I
I was
don't think it
younger,
takes time though. I don't think it takes time. I think it takes the willingness to have the effort to put forth to learn the way that you need. Because
but that takes
everybody
time.
has time though.
But that
Man,
takes time.
I know some
It
old
takes
people
time.
who are
But it
not
takes
trying to
time to learn.
change.
But it
Oh,
takes
are
time
we
to learn.
arguing?
No,
That's
it takes time to learn.
right.
Like it does, though, right?
It does
Like
take time to learn. But what about
it.
the people who never learn? What about the
But
old people who never learn?
everyone's time is different. Everyone works on different
That's true.
timetables, right? So
That's
what
true.
works for me doesn't work for you, right?
Mm,
We can't compare my journey to someone else's.
most
Like
definitely.
I learn on my own timetable, right? So
Okay.
my time frame might be different than yours. I can
Well, let
pick
me
up on
put
it
this out there.
quickly.
Let
Someone
me
else
put
might
this
get
out
up.
there.
That's the thing.
Right, right.
Time is
Well,
limitless.
there's somebody who's watching this. I'm not going to say his name or his relationship to me. You are too old to not know how to communicate. You've had almost twice as much time as me being alive to communicate. So what Austin is saying is find your way of communicating because you've had time.
And there's still more time. Like
And there's
it.
still, hopefully, you still have more time. We don't know when we're gonna get up out of here. We
That is
might do
true.
this podcast today, and then tomorrow I have no
Let's
more
knock on
time.
wood. Let's knock on wood
Yeah,
here.
is this real wood?
I think it is. I will make it.
I'm talking about my table. That ain't your table. They thinking we sitting across from each other at the same table. That's hilarious.
No,
No, that's dope.
that's crazy. So, like, the last thing I kind of want to talk about today is just kind of last time we talked, you mentioned that your passion was fashion, and your
Yeah.
why kind of was just living through that. Has your passion changed, and has your why changed over time? So, what is it now
Mm.
that ignites your why, man?
Uh, so I have opportunity through some a good friend who's pointing actually a year after we had our interview or had the podcast, July of 2022, opportunity came to me where I'm now working with a large department store selling my items in the store. And then from that same person, those people, they gave me opportunity to be with to work on this opportunity with the department store, and also it gave me the opportunity to do something that I never share with anybody, which is to be an artist, like to and outside of the fashion. Like I do graphic design, I do fashion design, but now I'm expressing myself in the arts, like it'll be in a digital art form, and some of it will be physical painting and
Hmm.
stuff like that. But ever since I was little, I always wanted to do art. But I never told anybody. It was just one of my passions, one of the things I always wanted to do. The why behind it, I don't know. When you're the only child and you're left with your gifts, you don't realize that they're gifts until later on. Like the graphic design, I had to think about it. I was thinking about it a couple of weeks ago. I've been doing graphic design since I was like maybe single digits. I'll say maybe teenager because I'm a musician, so I play drums. I was like, well, I want people to know I'm a drummer. I need to pass out business cards. So I would
Hmm.
literally design my business cards and print them out from, I think it was called Print Artist or whatever on Windows. Make my own
Showing your
do my own
age
graphic
right
design.
there.
Shut up. That's hilarious. I was on Windows 95 making business cards on there, and I would print them out. And, I would go to Office Max, print them out on there, and, bend them and pass them out to people. And I was like, whoa, I've been doing graphic design for a long time. So my why is, I guess you could say, because I'm used to it. And the crazier part about the artist side, like being an artist when you do artwork, what the consultant that put this together, I have an art show coming up. I'm gonna be a part of an art show in August. And she was like, what's the story behind this piece that you're making? I'm like, I don't have a story. There's always gotta be a story. I was like, why? Why does it have to be something so deep? Well, what materials are you using? I'm like, I told her, well, what's the reason why you're using that material? Because it helps with portraying the image. I'm not thinking, oh, because it's wood. And I got this wood from my grandmother's backyard. And like, no, it's not a story. Like it doesn't have to be so deep. I feel this image, I'm creating it, and that's what it's going to be. I don't so I think sometimes we want so much because we're taught that everything needs to have a story, especially when it
Hmm.
comes to branding and marketing. People love a story. Do they? Like, do I really care about the story of everything? No, I don't need to know the story.
I'm gonna tell you
But
right now, with me looking at art, I don't think of the damn story that's behind it.
I
I literally just look at this picture like, oh, that looks cool. I like the colors. Like I'm not into art like that. So there
yeah.
are some people who kind of like have to have that background so they can paint the picture themselves. But if it's a dope picture, it's a dope picture.
Yeah, it's
If
like
I don't like it, I'm gonna keep on walking. Like
exactly. My uncle is an artist, and I told him, I was like, man, she wants me to have a story behind every piece. He was like,
just
he
make it
went to
up.
school for art, and he was just like, no, he didn't say that. He was like, I mean, because I feel like it's not genuine if I'm now
Hmm.
trying to put something behind something that's not there. And I'm very big on people feeling whatever is put out there. So I'm not going to. try to put a story on something where there's no stories. But I do want all of the pieces to be cohesive about, my mother and family and this and that and the colors and are going to come naturally. I don't feel like there has to be a story. If you want a story, make up your own. I
That's
want
what I was about
this,
to say. I was about to say, have them look at the picture and just be like, "What do you feel?"
and that's what I think real art is. Yes, there are some pieces where people make something, is inspired from something, there's your story.
Hmm.
But then there are some pieces that are made and it's like, man, I was just designing. I was just moving. I just was going in this direction. So doing design for me and doing art and doing music and all of that, a lot of that sometimes is my escape. Like it's just something I'm used to. It's helped me think, it's yeah, man. It's that.
It's your safe place.
Yes,
And
it
that's the
is.
thing is like I feel like when I grew up, like sports were my safe place. Like go just
Mm,
playing basketball, whatever it was. Like at that moment, I was carefree. I wasn't thinking about anything.
mm,
And now my safe place is this, right? This
mm.
podcast. Like it brings me so much joy, so much happiness. And people are like, your smile,
Oh,
like on your show, it's real because I don't think about anything else. Like I love connecting with people. And I think that's just why I love doing what I do.
that's
That's
dope.
why I'm trying to make this blow up. I want it to be big enough to where I can just do this. Like this is what I want to
Oh, that'll be
do.
dope. So
Right?
that means everybody who's listening and watching, you need to make sure they're going to be able to watch this, right? This is on
Yes, this will
YouTube.
be on YouTube.
Okay. If you're watching this, that means share this with some people who you want to learn how to communicate better and understand their why behind what they're doing. And that's how it'll blow up.
You heard the man. If you're
You
listening
heard me.
to it, still share it with your friends. I
Most
do want
definitely.
people to know the clapping noise you hear is him clapping. So I
Now he's gonna call me
apologize.
out.
I apologize
I
if
got
it's
big
really
hands.
loud.
That's hilarious.
I
That's
apologize if it
hilarious.
is loud.
I don't even remember when I started clapping. That's the funny
The
part.
thing is, what I've realized a lot is a lot of us
You
talk
was
with
about
our
to clap.
no, I
Oh,
wasn't.
okay.
I
I
talk
saw
with
your hands come together.
I talk with my hands. So like a lot of
Mm,
people talk with their hands. Like I
right, right,
like
right. I do.
touch, feel, whatever. I do a lot with my hands. People are probably
There we go.
stop doing shit with your hands.
Why? It's my hands.
No, it can be distracting at times, but like for
I
me,
mean,
like
yeah, yeah,
when I go back and watch them, I'm like, damn, Austin, chill with your
yeah.
hands. Like,
Be you. Be
no,
you. I mean, if they got a problem with it, they just can listen and not watch it. But black
facts.
people, we're animated. We get loud. We talk with our hands. We talk with everything. When we start laughing, we smack some stuff. We might even smack you. You know.
Oh.
And look, I just clapped. So no, no, no.
Now you're gonna think about it.
I am. I'll be like super. I've thought because I do public speaking. I speak at church. I'm now a youth pastor, which is another thing that's different than last time. So
That's exciting.
it's exciting and different at the same time. Like it's very, very different. So being accountable for the youth and young adults is like, oh wow, like, this is great.
It's a big
So I guess I
responsibility.
got, yeah, man. I can't cuss as much as I used to. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. So that's why I'm trying
Right?
not to cuss right now.
It's all good. Now, I really do appreciate you just hopping on here. It
Most
was
definitely.
good catching up. I feel like we haven't talked in literally 2 years, honestly.
Right,
Uh,
right, right. We always catch up, but we all never get to talk. Yeah.
right?
So
It's just crazy because I see the stuff that you do on social media, and like that's kind of how I keep up with a lot of people. But
right, right, right.
and what next time I come to Columbus, which will probably be when I go to the Columbus Crew FC Cincinnati game.
Oh,
I
when is
always,
that?
uh, I think they play in August in Columbus.
Okay,
I know they play in May
okay.
in Cincinnati, but I always make it a trip. So, because hell
Man,
is real,
please come
baby.
up.
Hell is real. And
If
we're
you come up
actually
to
good
Columbus,
this
let me
year.
know.
I will. I
Oh,
for sure
really?
will. Yeah. FC Cincinnati is in first place right now. So they have actually the best record in MLS right now. So moving on up in
For
the
all of
world.
you who want to know, I do not know what MLS means.
Major League Soccer.
I knew that. I
Nah.
don't feel it was a division of soccer. I don't feel it was a certain division. Like, oh, this is the northeast side of soccer. That's their whatever. Y'all,
we can
if you
we
pay
can have a
attention to my,
conversation offline.
all right, there we go. Because if you didn't watch the last episode, you would know that I'm not athletic. Like if me and him play basketball right now, he would still take me, and I have him by a foot. So Yeah, it's a problem.
At least you know.
Proceed, so. That's hilarious.
Nah, I
That's
appreciate you,
hilarious.
man.
Most definitely.
If anyone wants to continue having a conversation with you about anything we talked about today, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
The best way for you to get a hold of me is to get a pigeon and write on a little note. Attach it to the pigeon and just let it free, and it will come to me. But if you don't feel like doing that, pigeons are only $13. But if you go to Instagram, I'm sorry, go to Instagram at Pastor Peace, on Twitter at Pastor Peace, Facebook Joshua Pastor Peace, no Joshua Eric Stovall on Facebook.
He got the whole government name on Facebook.
Man, you're gonna find me anyway, so you might as well put it out there. But yeah, that's how you can contact me. Email me at drummerslim@hotmail. My mom made that up when I was 11 years old, so don't clown me.
At Hotmail. I'm weak. When
Shut
you
up.
said that
I
to
have a
me,
Gmail.
when you said that to me, I was like, Hotmail.
Like
Jeez.
who uses Hotmail?
I'm
Old farts like me.
surprised it still works. I had a Hotmail growing up.
And what happened?
I just evolved with the times, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he got his own business email. He got the whatever at igniteyourwhy.com. I was like, ooh, okay, fancy.
I'm told you I'm trying to make it big. I want it to be
Yeah,
big.
you
So
got it.
I really do appreciate you. If you guys do
Most
happen to
definitely.
reach out to Joshua, make sure you let him know where you found him. Don't be weird. But
I'm a musician. I'm used to weirdness.
that is true. I appreciate you all for watching. I hope you
Most
guys
definitely.
like, subscribe, follow, whatever you do, share with your friends. I appreciate it. Follow us on social media. We are on at Ignite Your Why on all social media platforms. So thank you all for listening in. And always remember, find your purpose and ignite your why. Peace.